Anyway, our scripture this morning is from the book of Psalms, and it's from Psalm 139. I have truncated it a little bit where we see the three dots. It's skipping a little bit because I just wanted to get to the main thing for this lesson that I'm about to preach. He starts off, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know my sitting down and my rising up. You understand my thought afar off. You comprehend my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. For there is not a word on my tongue, but behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It's high, I can't attain it. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows right very well. My frame was not hidden from you. When I was made in secret and skillfully wrought, your eyes saw my substance, being yet unformed, and in your book they all were written. The days fashioned for me when as yet there was none of them. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O God. How great is the sum of them." The phrase I want to look at, David, the psalmist, says, "I am fearfully and wonderfully made." We've been talking about in some recent lessons about how the heavens are fearfully and wonderfully made, the awesomeness of the water cycle and the awesomeness of the heavens, the stars and constellations and all that. Now we're going to get down to a little bit closer to home, to you personally. He says, "I am fearfully and wonderfully made." What that means is you are not an accident. You didn't just happen. The human life is engineered with breathtaking precision. The complicatedness of our body is crazy. He says we're fearfully made. That means with awe-inspiring complexity. And wonderfully means uniquely, intentionally, beautifully crafted. That's you and me. You are not accidental, but nowhere is this more visible than in the smallest unit of your body. That smallest unit of your body is the human cell. And that's what I want to talk to you about this morning. The amazingness of the human cell. It's God's microscopic masterpiece. Just like the heavens are his macroscopic masterpiece, we've been looking outward to the great heavy duty large stuff. Now we're going inward to look at the tiny stuff. The human cell is a tiny living compartment surrounded by a membrane that contains all the machinery needed for life: energy production, growth, repair, communication, and reproduction. All that packed into every single cell in your body. Your body has about 37 trillion cells in it. Now, if you start counting now, come back in about 3 years and you might be done counting. I'm not sure. That's a lot of cells in your body. Every single second of your life, your body replaces 2 to 3 million cells. Every second. Just while I spoke this, two or 3 million cells got replaced. So they died, new ones were formed by cells splitting into new ones. Each cell is like a tiny city humming with activity. It's incredible what goes inside the cell. Looking at a picture of a little city, the human cell has factories like a city, has storage warehouses, has distribution centers, has delivery trucks, has streets and tunnels, has data centers, has waste removal, has design centers, and has police in every one of those 37 trillion cells in your body, each one has all of this packed into it. Every single cell of your body has that. Here's another picture that I found that I like. Kind of gives a little bit of a three-dimensional idea of what it looks like, because the picture that I'm going to show you is it's a little bit hard to put it into a three-dimensional, and it is really hard anyway. But that's kind of what a cell looks like. Obviously, they're so small that you can't see one. There's only one cell in the human body that is visible to the naked eye, and that's the egg in a female body. Every other cell is not visible to the human eye. And here's why. In a single human hair, you just pull out one of your hairs and look at it, there are an average of 10 cells across the width of one single human hair. That's how tiny they are. 10 in just the width of a human hair. So we're going to talk about cells. Here's a picture, a diagram of the parts of a human cell, and we're going to talk about them. I don't intend to give you a test afterwards. There may be a few big words that you don't want to necessarily remember. What I want to try to impress on you is the incredible human cell, the complexity of it, the wonderfulness of God's creation, and the impossibility that it could have just happened by accident. First part we're going to talk about is the cellular membrane. It is the high-tech security system of the human cell. Think of it as the peel of an apple or an orange or a grapefruit or the outside of a watermelon, that or an egg, the shell of an egg, just a membrane that keeps things from going in and things from going out. Now with an egg, nothing goes in, nothing goes out. But and with most of the fruits, that's the way it works too. But with a human cell is like a security system. It lets stuff out, only certain stuff, and it lets stuff in, again, only certain stuff. Somehow it knows how and when to let stuff in and when to let stuff out, but it has its own security system. Then you have just inside is what is called the protoplasm. All that yellow big area is protoplasm. The whole sphere of the cell is filled with that, and it's a jelly-like substance that surrounds all the organelles. I'm going to say what an organelle is in just a minute. But this protoplasm, this gel-like substance, supports metabolism. The living part, it supports, it allows growth and reproduction, enables movement inside the cell. If it was a solid thing, then things couldn't move around in it. So it's a gel that a lot of these pieces that you see there can move around in. It maintains the shape and internal pressure of the cell, and it houses genetic material and controls all cell functions. That is the protoplasm. I just mentioned it contains the organelles. Well, here's what an organelle is. The organelles are every single object inside this circle is an organelle. What they are is a membrane-bound structure inside the cell. The cell itself has a membrane around it, and then all of these things. Just think about your human body. You have a protective shell, your skin. It lets stuff out and it lets stuff in, but it doesn't let what it doesn't want in, doesn't let what it doesn't want out, or you'd fall apart. But each one of these other things, just like you have a heart and lungs and a liver and all these different organs, they all are self-contained. They all do a job. This is what organelles are. They're organs inside the human cell, and they each have a jobs to do. But unlike our body, where we have a heart, one heart, we might have two lungs, but most of everything we have one of. There are several things, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it, that we have two of: your eyes and your kidneys and and your lungs. But anyway, these organs, there may be many of them inside a single cell. And inside this cell is a thing called the nucleus. This big purple part is the nucleus. It's the center. Just think like the yolk of an egg, something inside the egg, inside this gel-like substance. There's a yolk. Think of it like that. The nucleus, it holds DNA. DNA, we'll talk about that next. But that's where the DNA is located. But not only DNA, but it also holds RNA and the nucleolus, which is, I don't even have time to describe what the nucleolus does. Really not too much about what any of this does. I'm just putting it out there to show the complexity of just a single little tiny cell. But I mentioned DNA. DNA is the most sophisticated information system known to humanity. The DNA of a human cell is more sophisticated than any data center you'll find, any mainframe computer. I don't care what it is. Your DNA, the DNA chain that you have in your body or in each cell, is more sophisticated than any of those things. If you were to type out all the information in a strand of DNA, it would literally fill hundreds of volumes of books. Just one DNA cell in one little tiny part of your body. Yet, well, I almost skipped one. If you stretched out the strand of DNA in that tiny little cell, it's 6 feet long. 6 feet long, and it fits. It's all tumbled. You can see how it's wrapped up in this very elementary kind of drawing. It's wrapped up tightly around something that I can't even remember the name of, and it when it needs to be read, it's little parts of it stretch out flat. You'll see that in the picture in a minute. But it's the most sophisticated part of, well, it's the most sophisticated thing there is on Earth. God, even though it's 6 feet long, God folded it so perfectly that it fits inside of the space of 1/50th of the width of a human hair. We mentioned that there are 10 cells in the width. Well, there's 50 DNA bundles just in the width of a human hair, and yet they're 6 feet. Each one is 6 feet long. Absolutely incredible. Here's a picture of what a DNA molecule looks like. This is just one section. This might be, out of that 6 feet, this might be a quarter of an inch or an eighth of an inch or something like that. So it goes on a long way. It's 2 strands, and we certainly don't have time to talk about it now. I may work up a lesson on it next week or sometime soon, just on the DNA itself. But we're talking about the cell right now and don't have time to explain everything. Inside the nucleus is also a thing called RNA, polymerase. What it does is it reads the DNA. The DNA strand has a bunch of information in it. Something's got to read it, though. That's what the RNA polymerase does. It reads a section of the DNA and then builds mRNA amino acid chains or strings. Again, there's not going to be a test. You don't have to know all this. You don't have to know what amino acids and all that stuff is. I'm telling you, I just need you to understand, or I don't need you to, I want you to understand how amazing you are, how amazing each cell in your body is. So this RNA reads the DNA and then builds amino acid chains. Here's a picture. It's a process called transcription, where our RNA grabs a hold of a part of this DNA chain and stretches it out flat, just like this. And along the DNA chain, there's a stop and a start, just like you with my reel-to-reel tape that I had. You put a piece of metal at both ends, and it was the stop place, and it would turn back and go backwards as soon as it hit that stop place. Well, there's stops and starts all through the DNA chain, and I do not know how it does it, but somehow the RNA knows what part of it it's looking at, grabs it, flattens it out, reads, goes along step by step, and reads all these pieces, and that is the um, that is the blueprint of these amino acids that it's going to build. It reads it and then builds these amino acids and sends those amino acids out to a thing called ribosomes. You see the little red dots that are scattered throughout. And remember, this is a sphere we're talking about. It's not just a flat thing. So they're all through the cell. And these ribosomes, they take in the amino acids and convert them into proteins. They read the instructions from that the DNA has been converted into RNA, and then they assemble proteins, which are the building blocks of your body. That's why when you eat foods, you want to get a certain amount of proteins, because that's where the growth from your body comes. They are the building blocks of your body. And without these ribosomes, nothing in your body could grow. Your hair wouldn't grow, you couldn't heal. Thankfully, there's ribosomes in my body, and hopefully by the next week or two, I will have this off my head. But anyway, nothing in your body could function without these little ribosomes. They do a very important job. They are factories that build proteins. So the next thing we talk about is mitochondria. The arrow points to that blue thing. A single cell may contain hundreds or thousands of these. We have one heart, two lungs. These organs, there may be 100, 1,000 or more in one single cell. And what they do is they make the power. They are the cell's power plants. They make a thing called ATP. They work nonstop so that we can do everything that we do, breathe. Every movement we make needs ATP, needs that energy. Well, what the ATP does, and it's called adenosine triphosphate, and it's the cell's primary energy currency. It's where the cell gets its energy from, and it's a molecule that stores and delivers usable energy for almost every cellular process. This ATP releases energy that powers things like muscle contraction, nerve impulses, active transport across membranes, building molecules, proteins, and DNA. So that all takes energy. And that energy is in the form of adenosine triphosphate, which is ATP. That is the delivery mechanism for all the energy that the cell needs to do everything that it needs to do in its function. Well, then you have the endoplasmic reticulum. Repeat that 3 times. It's that blue area that looks like, if you really look closely, you can follow pathways. It's like a maze that goes back, forth. And these things that come out of the purple part, out of the nucleus, go into the endoplasmic reticulum, and they go back, forth. And it's a highway system. And without getting too complicated, there's two kinds of endoplasmic reticulum: rough ER and smooth ER. The rough part, you can see how it has these red dots. The red dots are riboplasm. Sometimes they embed themselves into the walls, and that means that anything that's going through there can pass through here by taking a shortcut. And that happens all the time with these ribosomes. They pass proteins back and forth through there. complicated as you can get. I can't tell you all about it because I don't even know all about it, but I know that's their function. But then there's another part that's called the smooth. Up the top, you see there's no red dots in it. It's called the smooth reticulum. And what it does is it detoxifies, it processes fats, it regulates chemicals. It's doing all these things. Every human cell, it does it. Your cells have traffic lanes, shipping routes, and logistic systems more advanced than Amazon. Now you think about all the logistics. Our son Jesse works in logistics and he goes all over the world trying to make these things work, figure out, well, however complicated Amazon is, this system in each cell in your body is more complicated than the entire Amazon system. It's got, like I said, it's got traffic lanes, shipping routes, logistic systems. Absolutely amazing. Well, then you have the Golgi apparatus. It's the cell's post office. It's an organelle. It's one of the organs in the body. It's shaped a lot like the endoplasmic reticulum, but where'd they come up with these names? I have no idea. But it's an organic cell that it modifies and sorts, packages, and ships proteins and lipids. So the ribosomes go through this path. They convert nucleic acids into proteins, and then the Golgi apparatus then modifies those, sorts them, packages, and ships all these things that are made in the endoplasmic reticulum. So it's like the post office. It does exactly all those things. It's kind of it's hard to describe it. It's like a stack of pancakes, but only they're all connected together, so things can weave in and out of them. But it's an amazing thing that part of the body does. But it also, in that Golgi apparatus, it takes the proteins and modifies them. It adds sugars, it folds them, it activates them, it packages them, it sorts them based on where they need to go. It ships them to places like the cell membrane through lysomes, which we're going to talk about next, and it ships them outside the cell for use in other cells and such. And it ships them to other organelles, to different places, which we're not going to talk about. But and you can see just this one part is incredible all by itself. But one of the places that it ships proteins to is lysosomes. And these lysosomes are cells' waste management. They're small membrane-bound organelles filled with a powerful digestive enzyme, which what enzymes do is they dissolve stuff. There's over 50 different kinds of enzymes that these cells produce based on what they need, what they're trying to get rid of, or what they're doing with it, what they're digesting. What they do is they handle all the dirty work inside of a cell. They digest old and damaged organelles. They digest them so that it cleans them up so they don't get all cluttered. They break down large molecules. They destroy bacteria and viruses that enter the cell. They recycle useful components. They don't just get rid of stuff, don't just dissolve stuff. They recycle useful stuff back into the cytoplasm, and they keep the cell from filling with junk. That's just these little blue dots. That's what they do. Next, we have vesicles, just tiny, tiny little things, a small membrane-bound bubble inside a cell that transports, stores, and digests materials. So a lot of these materials that get manufactured in different places in the cell, the vesicles are what takes it around the different parts in the cell. It's like a little truck going around, taking different things to different places. Like we said before, it's like a little city, manufacturing stuff, storing stuff, and taking it wherever it needs to go. Absolutely incredible. It's just like a shipping container or a delivery truck. Then we have microfilaments. I think this is the last thing that we're going to talk about. Microfilaments, these little black lines that you see, they help give shape to the cell. They keep it from getting all distorted. It's like having a bunch of strings tied from the middle to the outside, and just like the spokes on a bicycle, they keep it from getting out of round. They give the cell shape and the strength that it has. And these little black things are protein. They're all made of protein called actin, and it holds everything together. Well, there's much more. I don't have time to talk about stuff, and I probably don't know very much more than what I'm just telling you. There is so much more. We've just been talking about a single cell, what it can do. There's 200 major cell types. So each one has different stuff, different things that it does, different things that it accomplishes. 200 major cell types, and scientists divide them into 4 categories: epithelial cells, muscle cells, nervous system cells, connective tissue. Epithelial is things like your skin and such. Muscle cells are obviously your muscles, heart muscle and that sort of thing. Nervous system, obviously things to do with your brain and neurons and nerves and everything that go throughout your body. And then the connective tissues, things like bones and red blood cells. But every single part of your body is unbelievably complex. And you've seen enough, just what I've showed you here, how complex that is. And this stuff, it has to work together. If they don't work together, bad stuff would happen. You would not be here. They all work together in complete harmony. And many scientists want you to think, oh, this all happened by accident. There's just this big bang and everything blew apart, and then things started to assemble together and the earth formed, and then just so happened this one happened to have water, and it was just the right distance from the sun, and it had the moon just the right distance so that the water could be just in the right place and stay in the right place and go back and forth and shake itself up to stir itself because of the moon making the tides, and all of these things that we've talked about already. That all happened by accident. And then uh, somehow these amino acids that may or may not have come from outer space uh, ended up in a tidal pool somewhere, and it was just the right temperature, the right warmth, and then a lightning struck it, and electricity, and boom, you got proteins. And all of a sudden now we got light, we got the beginning of life. And then over billions of years, things happen until you and me are here. This is crazy. I don't even have words. This can't be an accident. There's no way on this earth. And when David says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, man, you are. We've just been talking about the smallest little part of your body. There's 37 trillion of them in your body. Each one has all these things in it that we just talked about. Amazing. If you can look at that cell and not see design and not think there's got to be a designer, that didn't happen by accident. You are blind if you can't see that. And that's what people have done. They've blinded themselves. God said if people that don't want to hear the truth, he'll send them delusions of error that they can believe the lie. The lie is that this all happened by accident. People want to believe it, and so they do. They take what they see and manipulate it in a way. Okay, that makes sense to us. So there is no God. This all happened by accident. Ridiculous. Anyway, I'm going to get off the pulpit, and I just want to give an invitation to anybody who needs to be obedient to the gospel. God made you in such a way, you are not an accident. You're supposed to be here. But not only are you supposed to be here, you've got a job to do. We are all put here in order to please God, to learn about him, to understand what he wants from us, how much he loves us, what he what he gives us, so many things about God that we can learn. One of the things that we learn is that he wants us to be in relationship to him. But sin has separated us from God. And to get back in relationship, Jesus came and lived and died on the cross. He paid the price for your sins. The way to contact the blood which he shed for you is by being baptized into Christ, to have your sins washed away. If you haven't done that, why not? Please listen to what God says. Listen to the human cell talking to you about God's wisdom and his amazing design abilities and so many things. Anyway, this is an invitation to come forward to be baptized into Christ. If you need to, if you don't want to come forward, talk to me afterwards, talk to me tomorrow, whatever, but don't wait. You need to be in relationship with God, this one who created the human cell, who fearfully and wonderfully made you.